The moment I saw Samantha's story, my stomach twisted. There it was, a group photo of her graduation party. She stood in the center, glowing in her new designer dress. I wasn't even next to her. I was on the edge, holding car keys like some valet, and under my face she typed, "Our Uber guy." The comments rolled in fast. "Free driver and free wallet too, lucky girl. Such a loyal simp, keep milking him, girl. Next time tell him to bring snacks too." I stared at my phone, my chest burning. For 3 years I had been paying for her tuition, her rent, her designer bags, her weekend trips, and in front of everyone I was nothing more than a joke. A walking ATM with a car. Before I could even react, Samantha messaged, "Chris, don't take it seriously. Just harmless fun, you know how my friends are." Harmless fun? When I skipped meals to send her shopping money? When I pulled double shifts to afford her dream apartment? When I sold my motorcycle to pay her exam fees? I clenched my jaw but replied, "Yeah, all good, as long as you're happy." But deep down, something inside me cracked. 2 days later, I saw another story. This time, it wasn't Samantha. It was her friend, Mary. She accidentally tagged Samantha kissing Angelo, her so-called study partner. I froze. Angelo. The same guy I trusted to help her prepare for finals. The same guy who borrowed money from me last month for books. They weren't even hiding it anymore. While I was driving them around, they were laughing behind my back. While I was breaking my back for her future, she was building a future with him. That night, as I sat in my car outside her apartment, I made a decision. No tears, no confrontations, no begging. If they saw me as nothing more than an Uber guy, I'd show them what real power looked like. My name is Chris, 28 years old, son of a logistics tycoon. But you wouldn't know it if you saw me. For the past 3 years, I lived like an ordinary guy. Cheap car, budget meals, secondhand clothes. Not because I was broke, because I chose to. Samantha never cared about money, or so I thought. She told me she loved simple things, wanted to build a life from scratch with someone real. She called me her safe place. Back then, I believed every word. We met at a charity event organized by my father's company. She was volunteering. Long black hair tied up carelessly, soft brown eyes that seemed too gentle for this world. She spilled coffee on my suit that day and apologized with a nervous smile. I laughed it off, offered to buy her lunch. That lunch turned into dinner. That dinner turned into late-night calls. Within weeks, we were inseparable. My family didn't approve. "Chris, girls like her aren't meant for you," my father warned. "She's after your money. You'll see." But I was young, in love. Stupidly so. To prove my sincerity, I cut myself off from the family fortune, moved out of the mansion, refused my trust fund, started working at one of our smaller logistics branches as an entry-level manager, drawing just enough salary to cover basic expenses. I wanted Samantha to love me, not my money, and she played the role perfectly. Always refusing expensive gifts, always telling me she preferred homemade dinners over fancy restaurants, always acting surprised when I'd bring her simple flowers. In return, I supported her dreams. She wanted to be a designer. I funded her. Tuition. Bought her first laptop. Paid for her courses, her materials, her weekend seminars. Whenever she felt stressed before exams, I stayed up all night, quizzing her with flashcards, cooking her favorite comfort food. "You're my world, Chris," she'd whisper, curling up beside me on the worn-out couch. Every time she said it, I fell for her a little more. The little things added up over time. The monthly rent, $200, tuition, $8,000 a semester, studio equipment, $5,000, daily expenses, vacations, emergencies, tens of thousands more. But I never kept count. Love isn't about keeping score, or so I thought. There was always Angelo. At first, he was just another classmate, the funny guy who always offered to study with Samantha. "He helps me stay focused," she'd say. "He's harmless. You're my boyfriend. Don't be insecure." I swallowed my pride every time. I trusted her. When Angelo once came up short on rent, I even lent him money. Small favors. That's what friends do, right? I wanted to be the bigger man, the kind of man Samantha could be proud of. Looking back, I see the signs now. The sudden phone calls she'd step outside to answer. The nights she claimed to be working late at the studio, but wouldn't let me drop her off. The vacations she went on with classmates where I wasn't invited. I ignored them all. I kept driving her and her friends around like a chauffeur, thinking I was being supportive. "You're too good to me, Chris," she'd say, leaning over to kiss my cheek. "You spoil me too much." And like a fool, I'd smile and tell her she deserved it. The truth finally slapped me in the face at that graduation party. I was the outsider standing behind the camera. She posed with Angelo in the center of the frame while I stood on the sidelines. And then she made that post, calling me our Uber guy. Her friends laughed, she laughed, I didn't. What hurt the most wasn't the label. It was realizing that somewhere along the way, she had stopped seeing me as her man. I was a wallet, a driver, a convenience. That night, as she celebrated with Angelo and the rest, I drove home alone. The city lights blurred as my vision clouded. My chest tightened. I gripped the steering wheel harder, forcing myself not to break down. I wasn't angry at first, just numb. Maybe I failed. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I deserved it. But then the pieces started connecting. The secret weekend getaways. The sudden new clothes and jewelry I never bought her. The hotel receipts that appeared on my credit card statements. The extra miles on my car when I let her borrow it. For 3 years, I thought I was building our future. In reality, I was financing her relationship with another man. By morning, the numbness faded. What replaced it was cold clarity. If Samantha and her friends wanted to joke about me being an Uber driver, fine. I'd show them just how far this Uber guy could really go. The next few days were a blur. Samantha barely texted, too busy with her post-graduation plans. She said she was catching up with friends before job hunting. What she didn't know was that I had already seen enough. That accidental post from Mary haunted me. Samantha kissing Angelo behind my back, bold, careless, like my existence meant nothing. My heart kept replaying the scene, but my mind was already calculating my next moves. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I visited one of my father's old friends, Mr. Hahn, who managed the family's transportation division. He had been trying to recruit me for years. "You finally ready to stop playing poor?" he joked as we sat down. "I'm not here for the money," I said calmly. "I want to buy." His eyebrows rose. "Buy what?" "Your fleet." Mr. Hahn laughed at first, but when he saw my face, the amusement drained from his eyes. "You serious?" "I want all of it. The fleet, the licenses, the management rights, every delivery truck, every city cab, every rideshare vehicle under your control." He leaned back, studying me. "That's not a small sum. I'm aware." "And why, may I ask?" I offered a thin smile. "Let's just say I'm finally embracing my title as Uber guy." By nightfall, the contracts were drafted. The money wasn't an issue. My trust fund had more than enough. What? My father once tried to hand me freely. I now used on my terms. The entire transportation network that spanned 3 cities now bore my name. Samantha had no clue. 2 days later, she called. "Hey babe, can you pick me up?" My car broke down. Of course. As I pulled up, she came rushing out with shopping bags, dangling from both arms. Her designer sunglasses hid her eyes, but her lips curled into that familiar fake smile. "You're a lifesaver," she giggled as she slid into the passenger seat. "Always happy to serve," I replied, my voice calm, controlled. As I drove, she scrolled through her phone, laughing at memes, replying to Angelo's messages. She didn't even bother hiding it anymore. I glanced at her reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman I loved no longer existed. "You okay, Chris?" she finally asked. "Never better." The following week, Samantha introduced me to her career plan. She claimed an interior design firm had offered her a junior position, but I already knew. The firm was owned by Angelo's cousin. Another web spun to pull her closer into his world. At dinner that night, she dropped the real bomb. "Babe, since I'm working now, maybe you don't need to handle my bills anymore." I paused, watching her eyes carefully. She was playing the guilt card, making herself look responsible, independent, trying to free up my money so Angelo could enjoy it. "That's great, Sam. I'm proud of you." She smiled sweetly. "But my student loans are still huge. The bank keeps calling. Maybe you could just handle those? I'll pay you back once I'm stable." "Of course," I said softly. "Whatever you need." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You're the best, Chris. I don't know what I'd do without you." I smiled back, but inside my patience was thinning. By now my investigation had uncovered everything. Every secret hotel booking, every wire transfer she sent Angelo, every shopping spree funded by my hard work, every private dinner reservation, under both their names, and worst of all, the apartment. The one I thought she was renting with 2 roommates, fully leased under her name, but cohabited by Angelo for months. I had seen enough. Then came Mary's second accidental leak. Another story. Samantha and Angelo on a weekend getaway. Angelo's arm draped over her shoulder, champagne glasses in hand, captioned, "Private escape with my king, war grind hard play hard." When I confronted Samantha that evening, she acted surprised. "It's just a photo, Chris. You know how close our class was." "Close? You're sitting in his lap." That was just a playful moment. I didn't argue. I just stared at her. "You think I don't know?" My voice was steady. "About Angelo, the hotel bookings, the apartment, the transfers, the weekends, everything." Her smile finally dropped. Her skin paled. "Chris, It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think." Tears welled in her eyes, but I wasn't moved. "You wanted me as your safety net while you played house with him." "No, I said nothing all this time because I wanted to believe you were better than this." She reached across the table, desperate. "Chris, please don't do this." I stood up, pulling my hand away. "You're right, Samantha. I won't do this. Not anymore." As I left, she cried out behind me. That night, I didn't sleep. But I wasn't breaking down. I was done playing the fool. The real game was just beginning. The house felt colder than usual. The silence wasn't new. Samantha had been spending more nights at work anyway, but this time it pressed against my chest. I sat alone on the couch, staring at my phone, every message thread, every call log, every transaction. I had all the proof laid out before me. Not just evidence of betrayal, evidence of my own blindness. I scrolled back through old messages from her. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me. No one loves me like you do. You're my safe place." I used to read those with pride. Now they tasted like poison. I had always imagined the day I proposed to her, buying her a ring she truly deserved, walking her down the aisle while our friends cheered, giving her the life I promised from the very beginning. Instead, here I was, nothing more than a footnote in her fairy tale with Angelo. My father's words echoed in my head. "Girls like her aren't meant for you." Back then, I called him cold, judgmental, dismissive, but he wasn't wrong. I closed my eyes and leaned my head back against the sofa. The memories kept flooding in. The time I stayed up 3 nights straight helping her finish her portfolio for midterms. The surprise birthday I organized when she said no one had ever thrown her one. The time I pawned my grandfather's watch to cover her medical bills. All of it. Given freely, given happily. For what? For a thank you? For loyalty? For love? I had convinced myself it was enough that she was happy. That one day she would realize everything I had done was because I loved her. I believed sacrifice was love's purest form. But all I did was make myself disposable. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was the casual indifference. The way she laughed with her friends at my expense. The way Angelo called me the wallet. The way they paraded around on my dime while feeding me lies. I wasn't a victim because they tricked me. I was a victim because I let them. The door suddenly opened. Samantha walked in like nothing had changed. Shopping bags in hand, her face lit up as if we were still fine. "Hey, babe!" she called out, setting her bags down. "Guess what? The job is going great and I might get promoted." I didn't reply. My silence made her glance over. "Chris, what's wrong?" Her voice softened. She tried approaching me, pretending. Concern. I studied her face. That same face I once memorized. The smile that once made my worst days better. The eyes that used to light up when I surprised her. All of it looked so unfamiliar now. "Nothing," I finally said, my voice low. "I'm just tired." She sighed in relief and sat beside me, resting her head on my shoulder like before. For a brief second, my body wanted to relax, to pretend none of it was real. That maybe this was just a misunderstanding. That maybe if I forgave her, we could fix it. But the truth was too heavy. Her phone buzzed. She tensed but quickly reached for it. I didn't stop her. I didn't need to. The name on the screen flashed for a second. Angelo, my stomach tightened. Not from surprise, but from disgust. She quickly stood up, pretending not to notice. I'll take this outside, just work stuff. Work stuff. Lies layered over lies. As she walked out to answer, I stared at the door, my breathing steady, controlled. I was past the stage of heartbreak, past the tears, past the anger. Now there was only strategy. I wasn't going to expose her in some childish confrontation. No screaming, no scenes, no fights. I was going to take my time, let her dig herself deeper, let her believe I was still blind, because soon she wouldn't be able to crawl out. That night, when she returned, I acted as usual. We ate dinner like any normal couple. I smiled. I laughed at her stories. I held her hand. She thought I was still hers, still too weak to walk away. But beneath that calm exterior, I was already pulling the strings. Behind closed doors, I had begun building my trap. I contacted my legal team to audit every financial trail she touched. I gathered screenshots, statements, witness testimonies. I had Mr. Hahn prepare the paperwork, transferring fleet ownership to my private holding. I was preparing for the final strike, not for petty revenge, but for complete erasure. The hardest part wasn't catching her. The hardest part was pretending I hadn't. When she hugged me that night and whispered, "I love you," I simply smiled. "Love you too," I replied, my voice steady. But in my head, I whispered something else. "This is the last time you'll say that to me." 3 weeks later, Samantha invited me to an exclusive gala hosted by her firm. She called it a big career milestone, saying she wanted me by her side. Of course, I accepted. After all, this was exactly the stage I wanted. The venue was lavish. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above. Waiters in tuxedos floated through the crowd with silver trays. Angelo was there too, dressed sharp like he owned the place. He stood near Samantha most of the night, pretending to be just another supportive friend. But I watched everything. Samantha clung to my arm while stealing glances at him. The tension between them was palpable. She was juggling both performances. Perfect girlfriend for me, secret lover for him. The night dragged on, but my patience held. Then came the charity auction. The firm's CEO announced that Samantha had single-handedly secured one of their biggest transportation partnerships, a massive fleet contract that boosted their profile overnight. Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled. Samantha smiled, basking in the praise. She leaned toward me and whispered sweetly, "Thank you, babe. I couldn't have done it without your support." The irony made my chest tighten. That very fleet deal was signed with my company, without her knowing who was behind it. She was celebrating a victory I had orchestrated to position her perfectly for what was coming. Later that night, as the guests mingled, I noticed Angelo slipping outside alone. Samantha followed discreetly minutes later, thinking no one would notice. I followed at a distance, silent, blending into the shadows. They met near the parking lot, speaking in hushed voices, but I could hear every word. "He doesn't suspect anything?" Angelo asked, lighting a cigarette. "Not a clue," Samantha whispered. "He's still playing the loyal boyfriend." Angelo laughed. "Perfect. Once that deal fully processes, we can start moving the money. His name isn't even on the paperwork." "Exactly," Samantha replied, her voice colder than I had ever heard. "And once it's transferred to my private account, we can disappear." "Poor guy," Angelo sneered. "He financed his own destruction." My fingers curled into fists, but I kept my breathing calm. Their plan was bigger than I thought. They weren't just using me emotionally. They were stealing everything I had built behind the scenes. What they didn't know was that the contracts they celebrated weren't real ownership transfers. They were bait. Every document had been monitored, every account tagged, every transfer, traced by my legal team. Samantha continued, her voice dripping with confidence. "Just a few more weeks and we'll vanish. He'll be too heartbroken to chase us. Honestly, I almost feel bad." Angelo laughed again. "Why?" "He chose to play the simp." At that moment, I stepped back quietly, disappearing into the building. I didn't need to hear anymore. The trap was complete. The next morning, I sat across from my father at the family estate for the first time in years. "You've matured," he said simply, sipping his coffee. "I learned," I replied, "the hard way." He set his cup down and leaned forward. "You're ready?" I nodded. He handed me a sealed envelope. "Then finish it." Inside were the final transfer documents. Full control of the family's logistics empire, not just the rideshare network Samantha thought she was stealing from. Everything was officially under my name now. By the time Samantha and Angelo would attempt their first offshore transfer, the accounts they targeted would be frozen. Every stolen dollar would trace back to them, legally locked with enough evidence to bury them. But I wasn't finished. I wanted them to watch it collapse, personally. The night they chose for their celebration was perfect. Large ballroom, chandelier lights slicing across the gold-lined walls, and a guest list filled with people who thought Samantha was some self-made prodigy. In reality, they were witnessing her last performance. I walked in, perfectly timed. Samantha spotted me first. Her dress shimmered under the lights, hand-stitched crystals lining the neckline. She wrapped her arm around mine like nothing was wrong. "You look amazing tonight," she whispered. I smiled. "Big night." She leaned in, eyes gleaming. "The biggest. After tonight, everything changes." She had no idea. Angelo stood at the far side, shaking hands, laughing with executives. His confidence was almost comical, acting like the king of a kingdom built on my back. I noted every interaction, every handshake. His attention never fully left us, constantly measuring how much longer he needed to pretend. The MC stepped up and called for attention. "Tonight we celebrate a groundbreaking deal led by our very own Samantha. Her strategic brilliance secured the largest transportation partnership in our firm's history." Applause erupted. Samantha smiled wide, radiating fake humility. She accepted the mic, her voice steady, carefully rehearsed. "This success wasn't mine alone. I was blessed with incredible mentors, a brilliant team, and most of all, my partner Chris, who supported me at every step." Cameras flashed as she looked at me, pretending devotion while Angelo grinned nearby. I clapped with the others, hiding my disgust. The speeches ended. Drinks circulated. Angelo made his move, cornering Samantha near the bar. His hand landed on her waist, speaking low but not low enough. "We leave tomorrow," Angelo whispered. "All funds are secured." Samantha nodded, stealing glances toward me. Once the last transfer clears were gone, I shifted position, unseen. Mr. Hahn approached behind me, giving the smallest nod. Everything was ready. The room dimmed for the final toast. I stepped forward before the MC could speak. Microphone in hand, my voice cut through the low chatter. Before we end the evening, I'd like to personally thank Samantha and share something intimate. The audience turned, intrigued. I locked my eyes on Samantha. She froze. Angelo stiffened. For years I believed in love, I began. I supported Samantha while she chased her dreams. I funded her education, her rent, her business ventures. Everything you've applauded tonight stands on sacrifices most of you never saw. The air shifted. Conversations ceased entirely. But love is trust. And trust, when betrayed, demands truth. Samantha's smile cracked. I pivoted toward the guests. What few of you know is that while I was building her future, Samantha and Angelo were building their own. Private accounts offshore, misappropriated funds, false contract transfers, a scheme carefully plotted, with me financing every piece. Gasps filled the hall. Executives glanced at each other, their faces tightening. Angelo moved first, stepping forward. That's insane. You have no proof. I raised my hand, cutting him off. Proof? You mean like the bank transfers traced directly from Samantha's firm? Or the shell corporations you registered under Mary's cousin's name? Or the encrypted offshore accounts you both used? He froze. I continued. Tonight, while you drank, federal officers executed warrants freezing every asset tied to your operation. Right on cue, 2 agents entered. Angelo instinctively turned toward the exits, but more agents stood blocking every door. Samantha Mitchell. Angelo DeLuca, the lead agent called, approaching. You're both under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and financial conspiracy. The agents reached Angelo first. He resisted, shouting, This is his setup! He's framing us! The officer calmly replied, Save your statement for the courtroom. Samantha's knees buckled, but she stayed standing. Her breathing quickened as agents flanked her. Chris, please. It's not what you think. I finally looked directly at her. No, Samantha. It's exactly what I think. You played me for years. You drained me dry while preparing your escape. Tears formed rapidly. I made a mistake. I lost. Control. I stepped forward, lowering my voice. You didn't lose control. You were always in control. You calculated every dinner I paid for, every flight I booked, every dime I handed over. Her voice cracked. I still love you. The words disgusted me. You loved convenience. You loved comfort. You loved having someone willing to sacrifice everything while you chased something better. Her hands trembled as the agents began reading her rights. The ballroom watched in absolute silence. Executives whispered, distancing themselves instantly from the scandal. As they escorted Angelo out, he snapped one last time. You set this up, didn't you? You waited for us to finish. You wanted us to fall. I looked him dead in the toe. No, Angelo. You dug your own grave. I simply made sure you couldn't crawl out of it. Samantha tried one last desperate appeal, twisting toward me as the agent secured her wrists. Chris, please don't do this. We had something real once. The weight of her words didn't shake me. We had something real, and you buried it. Her tears finally broke into full sobs. One more chance, Chris. I swear. I shook my head, voice quiet but final. The woman I once loved died the day she chose greed. The agents led them away, their sobs and shouts echoing off the ballroom walls. When the doors finally shut, a heavy silence remained. The guests, executives, and investors stood frozen, processing everything they had just witnessed. I placed the microphone down. Mr. Hahn approached from behind, his voice low. You ended it clean. I exhaled. Not yet. As if on cue, my father appeared beside him. Now it's clean. I turned to face them both. It was never about the money. It was about learning who stays when everything's stripped away. My father nodded. Lesson learned. The right way. The entire ballroom shifted as attendees quietly began to disperse, whispering, glancing at me with newfound fear and respect. No one dared approach. The fool they once mocked was gone. What remained was someone none of them would underestimate again. The banquet hall emptied like a drained battlefield. The once proud executives who cheered Samantha's success now slipped out silently, pretending they never applauded her. The scandal would spread like wildfire by morning. Their names, their photos, their downfall, headline material. I stayed behind, standing under the grand chandelier. The same place where Samantha once stood, basking in fake glory, was now nothing more than polished marble under my shoes. Mr. Hahn handed me a sealed folder. Inside were finalized documents. Every asset, every vehicle, every contract, all under my name. The fleet she tried to steal now belonged entirely to me. I signed it without hesitation. "You've done it, Chris," Mr. Hahn said quietly. "No one will dare cross you again." I didn't respond. The victory was never about proving myself to anyone. It was about removing the infection that had poisoned my life for far too long. The next morning, I stood on the balcony of my new office. 30 floors above the city Samantha once thought she controlled. My phone buzzed. It was my father. "You handled this better than I could have taught you," his voice came through. "I wasn't ready before," I said. "But now, I am," he paused, his voice lower. "Any regret?" "Only regret is how long I let it go on." He gave a soft chuckle. "Good. Let this be your first real lesson. Power means nothing if you don't know when to use it." We ended the call. A knock at the door broke my thoughts. My assistant entered, placing a small package on my desk. "This arrived this morning. Sir, no return address." I opened it carefully. Inside was Samantha's bracelet, the same one I bought her years ago on our first anniversary. Underneath it lay a single handwritten note. "I'm sorry. Truly. I never deserved you." No plea, no begging, just regret. But I felt nothing. I placed the box aside, untouched. 3 months passed. The scandal destroyed Samantha's company. Legal proceedings were ongoing, but with the financial records stacked against them, both Samantha and Angelo faced long sentences. Their names were permanently stained. The media feasted on every detail. The sympathy they once earned evaporated overnight. I didn't attend the hearings. Watching them fall further wasn't necessary. I had already closed that chapter, but the world didn't stop moving. The fleet business expanded rapidly under my control. Contracts poured in from cities they once tried to conquer through fraud. Competitors who once ignored me now requested partnerships. My father's logistics empire quietly merged many divisions under my newly built structure. The man they once called Uber Guy had become something far greater. One late afternoon, while finalizing a European expansion contract, Mr. Hahn walked in. "There's someone here requesting to see you." "Who?" He hesitated. "Mary," I raised an eyebrow. "Samantha's friend. The one who accidentally exposed their affair through careless social media posts. The indirect whistleblower. Send her in." Mary entered nervously, hands clasped together, eyes darting across the luxurious office. "Chris," she began softly, "I know I'm probably the last person you want to see." I gestured for her to sit. "Why are you here?" Her voice trembled. I never knew how far they were planning to go. I thought it was just cheating. When I realized how deep the financial fraud went, I tried warning Samantha. She didn't listen. I stayed silent. Tears gathered in her eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought you deserved to know everything. That's why those pictures got out." I nodded slowly. "You played your part." She exhaled deeply, guilt pouring out. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything." Her apology was genuine, but unnecessary. She was a pawn caught in their web, nothing more. "I don't hold grudges for accidents, Mary," I said calmly. "The people responsible have already paid." She lowered her head. "Thank you for hearing me out." As she stood to leave, she paused. "Chris, I hope you find someone who truly deserves you." I offered a brief smile. "I already have." Weeks later, the annual International Logistics Summit arrived. I attended not as a guest, but as keynote speaker, the face of an empire Samantha and Angelo tried to hijack. Before stepping onto the stage, my assistant whispered, "Your father's in the front row." I nodded. The audience applauded as I took my place. Camera flashes captured the moment, not of a fool who once drove his girlfriend around, but of the man who owned fleets across continents. My story isn't one of luck or privilege, I began. It's a story of betrayal, lessons, and rebuilding from ashes. Sometimes destruction clears space for something far stronger. Applause roared through the hall. As I continued my speech, I caught my father's subtle nod of approval. Years ago, he doubted my choices. Now, he respected the man those choices shaped. Later that night, as the summit ended, I stood alone on the rooftop of the hotel overlooking the city skyline. The wind carried no memories of Samantha's lies, no whispers of Angelo's schemes, only silence. The door behind me opened softly. "Beautiful view," a familiar voice spoke. I turned. Mary stood there once more, but this time, calmer, composed. "Didn't expect to see you again?" I admitted. She smiled faintly. "I was invited by the board as part of the PR team. Seems your rise created plenty of new opportunities for everyone." I chuckled softly. Funny how life works. For a moment, we stood silently under the stars. Mary's voice lowered. "Do you ever miss her?" The question hung in the air. I answered without hesitation. No, what I loved never existed. Her eyes met mine, searching for any crack in my resolve. She found none. "The man you've become is nothing like the man they mocked." "I know," I replied simply, "and I won't forget it." She smiled again, this time with a strange comfort. "I hope this is your real beginning, Chris." As Mary left, I remained on the rooftop, watching the city pulse beneath me. No longer the driver, no longer the fool. I was now the one behind, the wheel of my life, my empire, my future. What Samantha and Angelo stole was never my wealth. What they tried to steal was my identity. They failed, and I was done looking back.